Colette died of an accidental fentanyl lace overdose at the tender age of 19. And yes, it's fentanyl that's killing our children. I tried everything, but not even a mother's love could save her.
We've seen a 433% increase in youth overdose from last year this time.
25% of the pills that are in the community right now being sold have enough fentanyl in them to kill you. We are playing Russian roulette with pills.
If you see something, say something. What more education do you need? What more conviction do you need to own this personally in our community?
Fentanyl. Some are calling it a weapon of mass destruction. Hi, I am Andrea Zarralde, and I will be your host for Fighting Fentanyl. On this program, we will look at how this drug has become a national scourge, taking more than 100,000 young lives in 2021. And now, it's beginning to take a heavy toll here in Montgomery County, with 5 high school students dying of overdose since September. When it comes to illegal fentanyl, experts tell us it's our children who are most at risk of dying. So when the Montgomery County Public School System held a press conference focusing on fentanyl, MyMCM was there to record their call to action.
Today, I want to talk specifically about the rise of illegal opioid use by our youth in Montgomery County. And especially, I want to talk specifically about how that includes fentanyl.
In the past, youth were overdosing on fentanyl after mistakenly taking counterfeit drugs or pills to believe to be other drugs, like Xanax, Percocet, Adderall. However, the more recent trend suggests youth are intentionally buying and using street fentanyl drugs. We, as the Montgomery County Police, are looking to prevent lives from being lost. That is our mission. It is not that we are here simply to arrest ourselves out of this problem. That is not the goal of our mission. Our mission is to work with this community to prevent opioids from getting into the hands of our kids and to all of our community.
We cannot lose another human being to this terrible crisis.
Carla Silvestre, the president of the Board of Education, was at that press conference. She joined us now to tell us more about it. Carla Silvestre, welcome. This illegal fentanyl is been in the county for a few years already. But what sparked this conference hosted by Montgomery County Public Schools lately?
Yeah, we have seen, like you said, the use of fentanyl in the state of Maryland. Even before the pandemic, there was a crisis in terms of fatalities in the state of Maryland. But that has decreased in recent years. However, the number of fentanyl deaths among youth have increased. And that affects our schools, of course. And so that was the impetus for launching this press conference to begin to raise more awareness among the community about the problem and what we can do to address it.
Here we're going to listen to a parent that participated in one of the forums. And this is what he has to say. Okay.
She tells me she doesn't even want to go to the restroom in the school because there's rampant drug use in the restrooms. And she, I know that's a minor offense now, but are we addressing any of that?
Yeah, those are really powerful words. I think that we do recognize that there is a problem in terms of the bathrooms in our schools. That's supposed to be private time, right? Unsupervised time. You go to the bathroom and then go back to class. But we have seen that, yes, too much is going on there that's not supposed to be happening. And so the school system has taken some measures already, like limiting who can go to the bathroom at one time, putting cameras outside of the bathroom to be able to see who went in after the fact, I guess. And also coming up soon, they'll be announcing some plans to increase personnel to monitor the bathrooms, men and women. Too often our security staff is men, and so they don't go into the girls' bathroom, but now we're going to have more female staff to be able to walk into the bathroom, monitor, just to have more supervision and more adult presence to address this problem.
What else the Board of Education and MCPS is doing to fight fentanyl?
Education, education, and information. Really working with the county and the police department to really saturate the media channels, the communications, public service announcements to really educate us. It's relatively new as for parents to understand what this is and how it's affecting young people. So we really want parents to be equipped with the information and the tools, what to do if you suspect, how to prevent all of this from happening in the first place. Students that want to help their peers, what do they need to know? How can they help their peers if they're caught in a situation like this? So the first step is to really get educated so that we are informed and empowered to do the right thing.
Any additional thoughts?
This is a community problem. It's a horrible situation for us to be in. We cannot lose another life, especially a young person's life. And as a parent and mother, I really empathize with families that are struggling with this, but we can come together, try to prevent as much as possible this from happening, really being vigilant of our kids like all parents try to do, keep them involved in positive activities, keep them busy, they say, right? Keep them busy, whatever, in sports, clubs, church, if you belong to a faith community, so that they're in positive environments and less opportunities to get caught up in things that are going to be harmful to them. So together, we can come together to support each other and support our kids.
Thank you so much. Carla Silvestre, President of Board of Education of Montgomery County.
Thank you.
What is increasingly happening, and this is terrifying, is that these drugs are being manufactured, they're being stamped to look like a prescription drug.
State's Attorney John McCarthy saw the dangers of fentanyl early. He began a program called Speak Up, Save a Life nearly a decade ago. He took his message to students in presentations like these ones at Woodton High School. Mr. McCarthy, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be with you. Thank you for inviting me to be with you.
You've been Montgomery County State's Attorney since 2006. What makes this fentanyl epidemic different this time?
Let me say to you, it didn't exist when I became State's Attorney. If you look at the longitudinal numbers, if you look at how the numbers have exponentially risen in terms of fentanyl deaths, in 2010, after my first term, there were no fentanyl deaths. When someone dies as a result of an overdose death, they go to the medical examiner's office. I've gone back and I've looked at the numbers. In 2010, we were practically at zero. As of last year, and we look at the individuals who've overdosed on opiates, 90% are fentanyl deaths. And we went over 3,000 last year, so 3,000 of those deaths, 90% were fentanyl. We've gone from 0 to 3,000 basically in a 10-year period of time, and the numbers seem to increase year over year.
It is essential to mention that just one pill can kill you.
You know, I really appreciate your saying that, because that's one of the things that DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration in the United States, sent out an advisory last year. And basically what they're now telling us is that in the black market, kids who are, and this is particularly young people, or I think anybody who deals in the black market, 1 out of all 4 pills in the black market contain enough fentanyl to kill you. And so, you know, when I go out and I talk to school-age children about this, what I really say to them, when you take a pill that you buy in the black market, you are effectively playing Russian roulette with a pill. And it's terrifying because we know that the amount of fentanyl that's needed to kill you, it's a couple of grains of salt in your hand. It's a very finite amount of that drug that can take your life.
Let's learn more about this pill, how it looks. I mean, what are the forms changing of fentanyl?
The fentanyl itself, because it's being used and mixed in so many different substances, I can't say it looks like this or it looks like that. When we're talking about the pills we were just discussing, essentially the fentanyl is disguised. If you took a pharmaceutically produced pill and laid it on the table and looked at it right next to a pill that was made in the black market, there is absolutely no way you would know the difference. Absolutely. It looks like a pharmaceutical. So it's disguised, and it's put together with heroin, it's put together with marijuana, it's put together with cocaine. It's mixed with lots of other substances.
And unfortunately, it's taking over our youth. They are dying. School ages kids are dying. And they are afraid to call 911. They are afraid to call any authority, the police, talk about a Samaritan law.
Well, number one, we've had 11 students in Montgomery County schools that were enrolled in our schools that have died in the past year from fentanyl overdoses. If you are in a situation, you're with an individual, whether it's alcohol or drugs, and they begin to overdose, they begin to die, speak up, save a life, call the police. Our pledge to them is they'll be immune from criminal prosecution. They will not be prosecuted. Why? Because we would rather save the life of that young person. That's much more valuable to us. That's our priority in Montgomery County. We will not prosecute you. We would rather you speak up, save life, and save the life of a young person, because there's only precious seconds in some instances to save that person's life.
This drug is in our schools and is killing our children.
It is absolutely in our schools. We've had overdoses in our schools. We've had kids who go to our schools that have died. And this is both in the public and private sector. The more that we can do to educate the entire community about these dangers in multiple languages, and that's why I so much appreciate what you're doing here in the community.
Thank you so much, Mr. McCarthy, for joining us and for being here with us today.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
If it is given in time, naloxone, more commonly known as Narcan, can reverse the effects of fentanyl overdose. Here is an animated demonstration of how it is done.
If you suspect someone has overdosed, try to get their attention by firmly rubbing your knuckles up and down the center of their chest. Next, call 911 with your location and the person's symptoms. Now it's time to administer naloxone. Peel back the package to remove the device. Place the nozzle tip in their nostril until your fingers touch the bottom of the nose. Press the plunger firmly to release the dose. Place the person on their back and tilt up the chin to clear the airway and support breathing. Give a second dose if the first one does not work within 1 to 3 minutes. Care for the person by rolling them on their side. Stay until medical help arrives.
Ben Stevenson works as a harm reduction manager at the Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services. He trains people to use Narcan. We caught him in action at the Clarksburg Fentanyl Family Forum giving a class. Welcome, Ben. Please tell us about this Narcan training the HHS is doing.
Yeah, so Narcan is basically the medication that is used to reverse an opioid overdose. And so we try to do in our Narcan trainings is educate people about what opioids are, identifying the signs and symptoms of an opioid overdose, as well as how to administer Narcan, which also includes the steps of the importance of trying to wake the person up, making sure you call 911 just because Narcan is temporary, administering the Narcan, providing rescue breathing for the person, and then caring for them until EMS arrives just because it's important to stay with them, make sure that they're okay until EMS gets there.
What are the signs that could tell us that someone is having an episode of overdose?
Yeah, so typically the signs that could be exhibited are a person basically being unresponsive. There could potentially be loud snoring or gurgling noises. The body could be very limp, so not being able to sit up, not having the ability to kind of control their bodily function things. They could have a slow pulse, or the pulse could be erratic, and then it could just be no breathing at all. And so when you see those signs, it's basically just good practice to go through those necessary steps of responding. So trying to wake them up. We educate people on doing the sternal rub once they see that a person is exhibiting those signs. And then going from there, they will call 911, administer the Narcan, and then go through the necessary steps to help save that person's life.
You have told us when it comes to fentanyl, this spray, Narcan, it's a key that can save lives. Can you explain why?
Yeah, so Narcan basically helps to reverse an opioid overdose by temporarily restoring a person's breathing. So it has the ability to restore breathing between 30 minutes to 2 hours. Within that 30 minutes to 2 hours, we try to educate people on the importance of rescue breathing, making sure that they're actually putting oxygen into the person's body, because that gives them a higher likelihood of surviving that overdose when you're getting oxygen into the brain and the other vital organs, of course, right?
Who needs that training, and why it's important to get that training, and how to apply Narcan to someone that is suffering an overdose?
I believe it's important for everyone to get trained, just to know what an opioid is, to know what the signs to look for when a person is overdosing, knowing how to respond to that person that's overdosing as well. Just because you never really know when you're in a position of saving a person's life. So I think it's important for everyone to get trained, just to be knowledgeable and aware of those signs and symptoms that a person may experience or exhibit when they're overdosing, so that they can respond in the right way.
Who needs to have Narcan at home?
I believe that everyone should be equipped with Narcan. I think in the face of what we're experiencing, not only in the county, but across the country, that it's just important to just be knowledgeable and equipped and educate yourself, just because of the supply of, drugs out on the streets now. A lot of it is laced with fentanyl, which is 100 times stronger than morphine. And so this powerful substance is unfortunately taking a lot of lives. And to be able to kind of mitigate that and address that issue in our community, we got to be equipped with Narcan, so we got to be educated and knowledgeable. So I would say everyone.
Thank you so much, Ben, for being here and for this information.
All right, thank you for having me.
If you are interested in Narcan training, go to knowtheriskmc.org or snap a picture of this QR code for more information. If you miss it this time, all this information and more will be on screen at the end of this show. No one knows the cause of the fight against fentanyl better than the members of SOUL. They are the survivors of the ultimate loss, the death of a child. Wendy Winter is a member of SOUL, and she is here to tell us about her son, Seth. Wendy, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us. Tell us about Seth. What was he like?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Seth was a highly energetic, fun-loving kid. He had such a bright smile and such a zest for life. He was laughing a lot and always making other people laugh a lot. And then as he grew up, he was just very sensitive to other people and their needs. Ever since he was a little kid and all through his life, he was very active, whether it was like skateboarding, snowboarding, playing football, riding his bike. Just constantly he loved those moving kinds of activities. And that was true throughout his life. So really, his sense of humor was, above all, something remarkable. And he was this very tall person with quite an outgoing, large personality. So when he walked into a room, you noticed him.
When did he start using drugs?
I would say it started probably somewhere between 8th and 9th grade, and then got heavier throughout high school. Marijuana was his first entry into that, and by the time he was 16, we sent him to the first rehab place to get some serious help. And then he passed when he was 20, so he progressed from marijuana to harder core drugs, meaning Xanax and opioids, and then ultimately passed from an accidental fentanyl overdose in 2020. That's how things went. He told me when he was just using marijuana that he knew better and that he would not be using pills or anything harder than that, because he said he knew how harmful it was.
If you have the opportunity to change the past, what would you do different as a mom?
Oh my goodness, that is a hard question, because we tried everything with him. We got him lots of support. We talked to him a lot. We sent him to several rehabs. But what would I do differently? I don't know, other than maybe just to continue to encourage him to love himself and to really address the pain that I believe was at the source for the use. I believe he was self-medicating. He had 2 friends who passed away, and I think it was a great source of trauma for him. And although he would talk about it and even cry about it, I don't think he really got to the point where it was truly addressed so that he could kind of move along in his life in a more comfortable way.
Tell us about SOUL, this organization that sadly is increasing the number of members. Now more than 80 moms just in our county are part of SOUL, which means they are victims of this crisis of fentanyl, what the organization does.
SOUL is composed of moms who have lost their children due to overdoses. So not just those who have lost their kids to fentanyl, just wanted to clarify that. We gather as a group of moms to tell our stories, to share with each other. It's a peer-led support group, so we're there for each other. We become friends, and so we're there to just provide that sense of community, because it's very difficult when you're going through all this to speak openly to others about it. It's a sensitive topic. There's a lot of stigma around drugs and overdose, and so it's not easy. And this provides a safe place for us to be able to do it. And then hopefully as we expand and we just become, maybe evolve a little as an organization, we like to be doing more advocacy work.
Most of the parents could say, that never is going to happen to me. Not in my family, not my kid. What is your message for parents out there?
Oh, my message for parents is that it can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter what socioeconomic group you're in, what gender, what race, what culture, what language you speak. I mean, fentanyl does not discriminate. It will hit you, hopefully the parents aren't using, but if their kids are experimenting, even with marijuana, it can be laced with fentanyl. It's deadly. I mean, the parents need to know that we no longer exist in a world where experimentation it's not okay, because your kid could die from using it one time. They don't have to be using a substance multiple times to potentially be hit by it. One time and just a few grains of fentanyl can kill you.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for talk about here with us today about Seth. Thank you so much for opening your heart and sharing with us your story. And we hope that your story and losing Seth could be an example for other parents to educate themselves, so we in some way can stop this fatal crisis that is killing our children.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it does help others.
Thank you.
Thanks.
As we reel from the losses we have already suffered as a community, we must find ways to stem the terrible tide of fentanyl overdose. That was the aim of an event held by Montgomery County Public Schools at the end of January. Hundreds attended the Family Forum on Fentanyl, hosted at Clarksburg High School. It is the first of a series of forums the schools will hold to educate the public about this crisis. Our next guest helped organize the event held at Clarksburg High School last month. Laura Mitchell co-founded Montgomery Goes Purple to help people recover from drug use. Thank you so much, Laura, for being here, for taking the time to talking to us about this important topic. And fentanyl is killing our young people.
It is.
Please tell us more about what your organization does, Montgomery Goes Purple.
We commemorated for a number of years in Montgomery County the International Overdose Awareness Day on August 31st every year. That's been done for about 5 years, but we weren't really going beyond that. So we decided last year to start Montgomery Goes Purple and celebrate recovery throughout the month of September, making sure that people know how to access those services if we've missed that prevention window, which is ideal. How do you get to recovery? What does that path look like? Who do you contact? How does that work? Is it even possible? Because some people that are in active use don't even know that that's possible.
You just mentioned an important word, prevention. And I think that's where everybody needs to start.
Right.
How can we prevent our kids to fall into using these drugs and trying different things that is killing them?
Some of the things that we could be doing, people don't really know about, so our goal is to educate them. For instance, if you have a child that's injured or a loved one that's injured or has a wisdom tooth pulled or has surgery or something, the doctors will automatically say, well, I'm going to give them something for pain and they'll feel better and we'll do some tests or x-rays. Parents need to know, especially, and young people need to know that they can ask, what are you giving them? I don't want an opioid particularly. What are my options if we don't do that?
You have a very interesting analogy about drug use. It's like a jacket try-on. Can you please explain?
Yeah, so I've likened it to this beautiful jacket you see in the store, right? It looks so warm and cozy and great, and you put it on and it's wonderful. It feels fantastic. But each time you put it on, it gets a little bit heavier and a little bit heavier. And by the second or third or fourth time you put it on, you can't take it off anymore. It's on. And that's the same thing with substance use. So you wear that coat forever because that switch doesn't go back off. You can lighten the weight of it by removing the weight, i.e. stopping to use the substances, but that jacket is going to be on, and that's going to be a fight you have to have the rest of the day, the rest of your life, every day.
How can we talk to our teenagers about these situations? They think that they know everything and they don't want to talk to parents, they don't want to talk to grandparents. So what parents and grandparents need to know to start this hard conversation at home?
Well, the first thing to know is to start early, do it often, and do it very honestly. But there's also no wrong time to start. It's just because you didn't start when they were 5 or 10 or 15 doesn't mean that you shouldn't start now. The landscape is different. A lot of things have changed since our parents may have experimented with a number of things. There just aren't safe supplies of anything. And fentanyl is in almost everything that you can get illicitly, illegally on the streets.
Let's see if any parents suspect that a kid is using drugs or falling into something illegal. How can we approach to them? How can we have these first conversations?
I think that having the conversation about what's happening with you, what's happened to you. A lot of times we start conversation with what's wrong with you. Well, you know, we all have things that are wrong, but that's not really what the point is. It's what's happened that has you seem down or you seem distracted or whatever the case may be. Starting the conversation that way, asking open-ended questions and letting them know that you are there to talk with them and that you have resources that can help them. If they're not comfortable talking with you, they can call 988 Crisis Center. They'll call, text, or chat. They can, you can make an appointment with counselors. And if you really think that, for instance, maybe you found something in their room, CAS, the Child and Adolescent Assessment Services here in Montgomery County, they do mental health and substance use screenings.
What is your personal motivation?
My motivation, I'm an unwilling participant in this. My son, my youngest son, lived 15 years in active addiction, and I realized it was very difficult to get out of it, and I knew that I couldn't walk his path for him, but I could make sure there was a path, and I could make sure he could find it. And he has a picture with he and 12 of his best friends as kids, and there's only him and one other person left. They all died from overdoses. And been to too many of those funerals to not try to make sure that parents and students know what I wish I knew then.
With your education, you're making the difference. So thank you so much, Laura, for being here or for sharing this information with us.
Thank you.
We hope you gained some valuable insights into fighting fentanyl, and you will answer the call to action. We leave you now with some important resources to check out. I am Andrea Zarralde. Thanks for watching.
Stay tuned. Coming up, co-founder of Montgomery Goes Purple, Laura Mitchell, and Montgomery County Fire and Rescue's chief spokesperson, Pete Pieringer, answer your questions about fentanyl prevention and treatment. Submit your questions now on YouTube or Facebook. This program is supported by the Healthcare Initiative Foundation, HIF, working to improve health and wellness outcomes for all who reside in Montgomery County, Maryland.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is the live portion. This is the live Q&A that we're going to host now for Fighting Fentanyl. We really hope that this special edition of Fighting Fentanyl get you into more information, more education, but most importantly, awareness of this crisis that we need to call it an epidemic. Let me introduce to our guest, our special guest for this live Q&A. We're going to have Laura Mitchell. She is from the Prevention and Recovery Group, Montgomery Goes Purple. And also with us is Pete Pieringer, who is the Chief Spokesperson for the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service. Welcome to this live Q&A. As we learn with this special edition, this is a really crisis that's taking over our young people. So we are receiving some questions through Facebook, also through YouTube. We received some questions prior to the show during the week that we're going to share with all of you today. So welcome, Pete and Laura.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We heard your story, Laura. Montgomery Goes Purple. What you guys doing is amazing with the organization. And I want to ask you something that we received questions before that, but is regarding the Narcan. The Narcan could be based on the FDA available soon, probably at the end of this month, over the counter. Do you think that this is going to be a game change for the crisis?
I think it is. Personally, I don't think it's going to be a good direction, though. Right now, it's available over the counter because we have standing orders across Maryland. It's not over the counter technically, but you don't need to go to your doctor and get a prescription to get it. You could just walk into the pharmacy and get it. With this change, when it's over the counter, it will no longer be covered by insurance. And the cost when it first came out was about $18. Now it's $137. So I can promise you that persons who are in active addiction, if they have $137, they're not buying Narcan with it. So I'm concerned that it's actually going to limit access because of the additional cost. There's some argument that the demand will be higher and it will come down, but there are a lot of factors that go into that, and we can't guarantee that. So I am concerned about the loss of insurance coverage for it. With insurance coverage or the discount prescription card, both of which require that it be a prescription, it's about $60 instead of $140.
And Pete, you are in the front line. Montgomery County Rescue and Fire Services is always there saving lives over overdose through Narcan. Can you explain to us who you think need to have Narcan training and Narcan? As Laura says, it's the cost of insurance and all that is a fact that we need to address. So Who needs the training? Who needs the medicine? And how easy or difficult is to access to this medicine?
All very good questions. Of course, our focus is response to the 911 call, but our mission doesn't stop there. Of course, of late, there's been a lot of public education, public outreach, a lot of concern, but also a lot of deaths. But along with that as well, there's been a lot of lives saved because of the introduction of Narcan and its availability. Now, there's the issue of cost and availability and access. We in Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service started what we call Leave Behind program. We've been dealing with opioid overdoses for quite a long time, and we'll continue to do so, I'm sure. But what is extremely concerning to us is the issue of fentanyl, and it's deadly. You don't know, it comes in all different shapes and forms, and you just don't know where it's going to be. You have to assume that it is everywhere. And you have the illicit drugs manufacturers. You have the prescription availability. So often you can't tell the difference. There is no industry standard for people that produce these drugs, to sell. And again, our experience has been that, we just deal with the overdose. And one of the rule out, when somebody has those symptoms that appears to have, we try other things, but as far as treatment and evaluation, but Narcan, obviously, works successfully for the opioid overdoses. But the alarming thing is, it's just a temporary fix. We want to transport everybody to the hospital. Quite often we get a lot of refusals. People will be resuscitated or, start breathing, become conscious, and they will refuse transport. They think they're okay, but it's just Narcan anyway. It's just a temporary fix. We prefer they go to the emergency room, get some of that professional help and additional care. But there's also availability to social workers and other things that can address some of those other issues that most of these people might be having.
I would like to take a moment to welcome everybody who is joining us on Facebook, on YouTube. This is a live Q&A. Our special guests are here to answer your questions. Please share with your family members, with your friends, with your neighbors about this live Q&A. If you are on Facebook, please share, ask your questions, because this is the perfect opportunity. We are here with experts. We just watch a show to educate, really, everybody, parents, children, about this crisis. We just got a question. This is for Pete, and it's how quickly after you take the drug does a fentanyl overdose happen?
I'm sorry, how quickly is the what?
How quickly after you take the drug does a fentanyl overdose happen?
Well, it varies on your physical condition, the type of drug, how you introduce it. I mean, it can be by a pill, it can be liquid, it can be ingested, smoked, as you heard earlier. So that all depends on your physical condition, your size, and physical well-being in the first place. So it comes in all shapes and forms. The thing that's most alarming is I believe our medics are talking about younger people are being overdosed. And a lot of that we see today is because of fentanyl. They don't know what they're getting into in a lot of cases. They might, as again, your video suggested, they might be just smoking some marijuana or something like that, but it might be, there might be some fentanyl introduced into that or some other additive. So, but it's alarming that, the younger people, and I think they don't have the wherewithal to know, what's happening to them. Their physique is usually smaller, and can affect them. It affects, like any drug, it will affect you in different ways. So it's hard to tell, but it can be. Again, it's quick. I mean, it's a 911 call, so somebody can overdose in a moment, and if they don't get that treatment right away to keep their heart going, keep their breath, give them oxygen, give them some intervention of some sort, can be deadly.
Another thing about this fentanyl is that you don't have to be a drug addict. If you try once, you can die. And that's the most important thing that everybody needs to know. Laura, can you comment on this? Why it's important to know that we have to pay attention to everybody? It's not about being a drug addict situation.
That's true. It is hidden in so many places, in so many ways. You can't see it, smell it, taste it. You do not know that it's there. Your brain will know, and you will want more and more of it. It will force your body to want it. It literally hijacks your brain. And you'll do nearly anything to get it. I'm not sure why I said nearly. You'll do anything to get it and not have that withdrawal, because the withdrawal is the worst flu you've ever had times 100. So they will do anything to get it if they live that long. It can become an addiction after one use, two uses. No one really gets past 3 times using that without becoming addicted. So that jacket analogy that I used, by the 3rd time you put it on, it's on for life, because that switch doesn't go back off. I'd also like to say that one thing that we can all do is to think about the language that we use when we talk about it. When we're labeling people a drug addict or other unfortunate words that we've used for most of our lifetime, that's a barrier to getting treatment, a barrier to having the conversations that are the prevention piece, that are helpful to find that path to recovery. It serves no purpose but to stigmatize and create barriers. So we talk about a person with substance use disorder or a person who's using substances, person first language, and there's a whole lot of information, several links on Montgomery Goes Purple around that. But we have to be really careful about the language we use.
We have another question here for Pete. Does CPR work on overdose? What can you say, Pete?
Yeah, and to Laura's point, words do matter. And I think that we have, you can see it by the popularity of a couple of these forums we've had with the school system and public health, that people are, thirsty for information. And you just don't know, as, back in my day, drug addicts were in urban streets and dark alleys, whatever. But now, this impacts everybody, Montgomery County and elsewhere, that, you just don't know where the problem might exist. But that being said, it's dependent on us to keep the awareness up. Now, your question of CPR, we advocate lately that, a lot of people, I think, previously were concerned about bystanders were concerned about performing CPR because they didn't want to breathe into the person's mouth. But we advocate now hands-only CPR. It's more important to keep the person's circulation going. Certainly, the chain of survival is you call 911, get the emergency response coming, start circulation. If there's an AED, automatic external defibrillator nearby, access that. That will help you out. If you believe it's an overdose, if it's an overdose, you can try the Narcan. That might be helpful to get the person breathing again. So, but as far as CPR, hands only, basically as often and as fast as you can. That often is a difference between life and death.
We got another question regarding Narcan as well. And it says, any idea when the newer version of Narcan will be out that is less sensitive to temperature fluctuations, that will make it easier to keep in the car or in another locations? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but we certainly follow the industry standards, and we have a large availability of Narcan. Working with our partner in Health and Human Services, that's where we get our supply from, essentially. And we do have leave behind kits. We will, simply that means that, most of our apparatus, all of our staff cars, police cars, public safety vehicles typically will have a pack available. So if there's a need in the community, we're going to leave it behind. So we prefer that there's no danger in giving it, no matter what, even if it might be a little expired or date might be overdue, but there's no harm in giving that particular dosage. The only harm or greatest harm is not giving it at all, not having it available.
Right, and the new formulation that the FDA just approved, it's not really a new formulation, it's a larger dose. So instead of the 4 the micrograms or milligrams, I'm not sure, dose, it's double. Because what we're seeing is the drugs get stronger and stronger. The carfentanil, ISO, some others, that they're less susceptible to Narcan. You need more of it to do the same job, much like the medications that the substances that they're taking. So to keep pace, they've doubled the size of it, new manufacturer. And they also extended the expiration date. They realize now that instead of the 2 years they were originally stamped with, they're good for 3 years. But as Pete said, even if it's expired, it will do more than nothing, than not giving anything. And it won't do any harm.
For those who are just, yes, go ahead.
That's a good point, Laura. Thank you for that perspective. But also keep in mind that our paramedics, our medical personnel, have a different application than what we see in the leave behind kits. So they have the paramedics have the ability to make some adjustments there and do it by IV or other means. But the dosage would be appropriate based on the circumstances.
For those who are just joining us, just want to share with everybody that we are hosting a live Q&A for fighting fentanyl. I inviting everyone as well to watch again the show. You can find it on the website soon, our MCM website. And it's important to educate ourselves and be aware of this crisis that is affecting everybody here in Montgomery County, in the nation. That's why we are hosting this show. And for those who are just joining us, I just want to share with everybody that Laura Mitchell from Prevention and Recovery Group Montgomery Goes Purple, and also Pete Piringer is the chief spokesperson for the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service, are here with us tonight to answer pretty much all your questions. We are getting questions on Facebook and YouTube, and please share this live Q&A with everybody, because that's our mission, to inform and educate as many people as possible. We're having another question, Laura, about resources. A lot of parents are complaining about or the lack of resources, or when they're trying to get any information, the waiting list for rehabs and things like that are very long. And this is a life-threatening crisis. So what can you tell parents out there about resources in our county?
Thank you for that question. We do have a lot of resources in Montgomery County compared to other locations, other counties, other states. However, we have a lot more people as well. And so the percentage still of need still outweighs the availability of help. And nationwide, we have a shortage of mental health providers and substance use treatment providers. A lot of that stems from challenges with insurance coverage and reimbursement rates. It's very difficult to make a living in that field and feed your family and keep your lights on. So we've seen a lot of people exit that treatment piece, those providers. So that makes it even worse. So as the needs going up and the number of providers are going down, we are in a crisis situation in terms of being able to access care. When my son went to his first treatment program, it was very similar. It was really hard to find one that was covered by your insurance. But everyone should know that the law requires that their insurance cover mental health and substance use treatment at the same rates and in the same way as it does if you broke an arm, had diabetes, or heart attack. So you have those rights, and you can check out the Maryland Insurance Administration or Parity at 10 for more of that information. We have a lot of resources on MontgomeryGoesPurple.org. I added a tab for youth and family resources. It's not everything, but everything I gather is I'm putting it on there. We're getting as much of it in Spanish as we can. so that we can reach the broader community. If you have the ability to translate things and you want to do that, I would welcome the help. If you have other resources we don't have on there, please send them to us. Send me an email through the message section of the website, and we will add them because we need more resources. And the county's Alcohol and Other Drug Addiction Advisory Council is also undertaking a needs and gaps analysis right now for youth services in particular, for mental health and substance use. There are no residential treatments in Maryland. So you get to that highest level of care where they need to be inpatient. It doesn't exist here, and that's a problem.
Another question, Laura, we got is, how can you talk to teens? What can you say? It's difficult. It's like a big barrier when you have to talk to kids, have these conversations. So what parents can do?
Well, yeah, some days we wish we could just lock them in the room and keep them safe and bubble wrapped, but we can't do that. It doesn't work that way. Not sure that would work if we could, but starting the conversations as early as you can is really important. Using that person first language and understanding when you're talking to them at any age that this happens to people. Looking for signs of trauma even before you get to that point. Anything that, and that's different for everybody. If you have had a lot of things happen to you in your life, your tolerance for trauma, or what registers as trauma, is a little different than if everything's been smooth sailing and all of a sudden something dramatic happens. So that big dramatic thing you might notice, but you may not know that a friend passed away or a friend got in trouble, serious trouble or something like that. So watching for those changes in mood, changes in behavior or interest in things, changes in friends. And it's really, really hard to tell the difference between teenage changes because everything is changing and those kinds of changes. But one of the first things that I noticed was the nodding off, particularly when we got to the level of the opioids, just sitting there wide awake watching TV or playing a game and just nodding, the head dropping to look like they're falling asleep. Trouble keeping Q-tips in the house or aluminum foil, finding that balled up and burnt and things like that. There are signs that you can watch for. The Coke trailer is very helpful in helping to indicate what to look for, where and all that. But those conversations, coming to the forums, watching things like this, hearing the information yourself, researching online, watching what they're watching on TikTok, and tie that in. Say, wow, what do you think's going on there? When there's a situation where a student behaved differently than they would have, and they bring that up, asking, what do you think might be going on with them? That can be the entree to the conversation. Because people don't just do things randomly. In most cases, there's something underneath. So asking them what's underneath someone else's behavior is often easier than asking about what's under their behavior. But it can be uncovered through that conversation.
Now, Laura, that you mentioned the Cope trailer, this is a trailer that is run by the Montgomery County Police Department. And it's a replica of a teenager bathroom and a room. And it's very good for parents to go in there and learn where the kids can hide the drugs. So a Cope trailer, you can have more information on the Montgomery County Police Department website. And we visit the Cope trailer. And we learned that sometimes it's important to check out the rooms wearing gloves. And I want to ask this question that we received early, Pete, about the fentanyl precisely, because we want to know how dangerous is if you have a physical contact with fentanyl. Is that dangerous? That can kill you? That can be, or we don't have to worry about that physical contact. Pete?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking more. Yeah. So I was interested to see what she was going to have to say about that. But you know, I already mentioned how it comes in so many different forms and format and processes you don't know. I think it's often the consumer doesn't know that they're ingesting it or inhaling it. So those are typically our concerns. But as first responders, we're always concerned about those types of issues, exposures to the hazardous materials, or in this case, drugs and deadly drugs. So we will take all the necessary precautions. That's mask, gloves, protective gear, personal protective gear in the first place. But you do have the potential of touching it and then transferring that from one place to another. So certainly we take extreme care, as always, when we're not sure what we're dealing with. But I think by just being in the presence of it is not necessarily life-threatening, but there is potential exposure just by touching it, ingesting it, inhaling it. So again, it comes in many shapes and forms, and I think most of the time, a lot of the time, the consumer thinks they're just taking some other medication or drug that they may have bought from a friend or in their cocaine stash or something like that, where fentanyl in this particular case is introduced, and that can be deadly. It doesn't take much. I think that is the concern. It doesn't take much, so it can easily be picked up if you're in the area. But I think it's not necessarily life-threatening unless you ingest it, inhale it, touch it, eat it, that sort of thing.
It is 8:26, and I want to remind everyone that this live Q&A, we will continue until 8:30 live on cable. But if you have more questions, please send them over. Of course, our guests will answer as much as they can. But this is a live conversation about fentanyl. So it's important, if you have more questions, probably even after the show, I'm sure Pete and Laura will be more than happy to answer your questions. Let me see, we have more about the fentanyl strips. I don't know if you heard about that, Pete, but how and why would you use them?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. In most of our leave behind kits, we do have fentanyl test strips, drug test strips. So you can test your stash to see if there is fentanyl present. So we do have those strips available here in Montgomery County, and most of our leave behind kits. I assume you can get them elsewhere, but if you're before you're going to engage in some activity with your stash, whatever it is, you can test it to see if there's the presence of fentanyl, which I hope people appreciate the danger and the power of fentanyl. It doesn't take much, and again, it's unknown. Usually, unknowingly, people overdose. And it can be deadly if they don't get the assistance right away when they pass out or overdose.
Yeah, I'd like to just address some of the limitations of fentanyl strips. I'm very pleased that they are available, and we do put them in the NARCAD kits that they're giving out at the forums and all that. But because of the way these pills are pressed and the way it's mixed in with other substances, it's not a scientific process. It's not monitored. It's not measured. So you may have one part of a pill that you break off and test, and it says, no, there's no fentanyl. But the half that you take, or the another part, your friend takes one half and you take one half, and one of you gets nothing and the other gets a deadly dose of fentanyl. So if you don't test just the right spot, it may be negative, but it's a false negative. It also doesn't tell you how much fentanyl is there. It doesn't change colors or go further up the test strip or anything with more fentanyl. So it's difficult to tell how much is there, how strong it is. And even if they use a part of what they have and gauge their next use by what happened with that one, it could still be a deadly mistake, because the next portion that they use may have a lethal dose of fentanyl in it. So it really
We just have 1 minute for this live Q&A, but I want to wrap this up briefly with your personal feeling about this crisis. How you feel, Pete, when you are out there and you see one of our children having an overdose of fentanyl?
I'm sorry, was that for me?
Yes.
Yeah,
how do you feel?
Again,
you save lives. Your team is saving lives. So how do you feel about this situation?
Yeah, so I mean, it is we have Narcan, and we want people to have it. so they can intervene before the 911 response gets there. It is a lifesaver. It is available, and we need to keep teaching and raising awareness. And they also will have the training for that and availability through our health partners and Health and Human Services and elsewhere. So that is important for the community to keep involved in that, stay aware, and take care of your kids. But I think the most alarming thing is you don't know who is going to be your next overdose patient.
I agree. It's 8:30. We have to say goodbye. Laura, please, we heard from you. Please, everybody, watch the show again. This is education is important, and I want to thank you, Laura Mitchell and Pete Piringer, for being here tonight with us. Everybody that is connected, thank you as well for joining us. We can continue this Q&A later on, but we have to say goodbye. A live show from the people connected on cable. This is Andrea Zarralde, your host for Fighting Fentanyl. Thank you for watching.